Well, this is a case of be careful what you wish for. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and 2 years ago to this day of this video coming out, hopefully fingers crossed if I get this out all on time, this date is August the 12th, 2023, and 2 years ago my review of the first War Doctor box set, Only the Monstrous, was released. I reviewed the first three back to back on the same day, and then 4 and Begins 1 a few days later, but scheduled them for each 12th of the month for August to December 2021. With later box sets being the 12th of the respective month's day came out, including for the ranking, well, 12th and 13th of March 2023 in that one's case. And so 2 years later, here we are once again with another War Doctor review on the 12th of the month, this time August 2023, the 2-year anniversary of the War Doctor audio box set reviews. And what's even more exciting is the War Doctor Comrades-In-Arms is a sequel box set to the War Doctor Warbringer, which is the second box set from the War Doctor Begins series, and the 6th overall. And with this one being the 5th box set of Begins, that makes it the 9th box set overall, with a 6th box set from the Begins series, Enemy Camp, making it 10 box sets when that comes out in December this year. So Comrades-In-Arms has a lot of great things going for it already. It is a follow-up to Warbringer. It continues the story of Case, played by Ajaz Awad, who is introduced and a main character in that story. It continues the War Doctor story shortly after the events of He Who Fights with Monsters. Well, depending on the linear continuity of this series, considering there's a time war on and time goes all over the place. It also features Beth Chalmers Vectrin, who's become one of my favourite supporting characters of Big Finish stories. And it marks the 5th box set for Jonathan Carley as the War Doctor, who is an absolutely fantastic successor to John Hurt as the voice of the War Doctor. And as I mentioned, this makes it the 9th box set for the War Doctor series overall, and we'll be getting to number 10 next time. So there was a lot of really great expectations for this box set. The continuation of the Warbringer story, the return of Case, and the Doctor and her working together on new adventures, as what box set 3 Battlegrounds didn't really do. So, how does Comrades-In-Arms hold up? It's a bit of a mixed bag, and I don't mean like there's a really great one, a not so great one, and there's one kind of in the middle, which I was going to say I felt with Battlegrounds, but they were all good. It's just that one of them wasn't quite my taste, but still objectively good. One of them I learned to like a little bit more over time, and the other one was always great, in my opinion. But no, the thing with this one is they are great stories, but, and I think this was the problem I had with the final story of Battlegrounds as well, is that I didn't really connect with them personally on a subjective level. Objectively, they're all great, but subjectively, I didn't quite connect with them straight away. And actually, I think, unlike Rewind, the final story of Battlegrounds, I actually think these stories went, well, at least 2 of them went down in opinion on a re-listen, or certainly one of them did. The other one might have gone up, and the last one possibly staying the same, if not go down a little. It's kind of a bit awkward. It's actually quite difficult to say what is my favourite, what is my least favourite, and what is in the middle of this box set. Like some of the other ones, it was very, very easy to say, this is the strongest one, this is the weakest one, and this one I put in the middle of my ranking. Even some of the ones where they were all very equal, like Warbringer and He Who Fights with Monsters, I had a bit more of a clear vision of, okay, it got better as it went along, or that one was better than the other one, or whatever. This one, I found it very difficult to actually decide which one was my favourite, what was my least favourite, what was in the middle. They're kind of all on a similar quality to me, but not in the same way as Warbringer or He Who Fights with Monsters. I suppose it's in a similar way to Only the Monstrous, the very first box set for me, where they're all very similar to each other, but the last one just about notches itself up a little bit more in my personal ranking. And I also think the middle one has a few more flaws than the first one, so that one would take the bottom spot on the ranking. But this one, I don't really know. I've actually started recording, and I haven't really gotten a clear vision of what my thoughts on this box set are, because I'm actually quite indecisive about this one. It's it's a good set. It's a good series. The stories are good. I just don't really know how to feel about this one. This is probably going to be the hardest one to talk about, because I still can't really quite wrap my head round it. Not because it's confusing, but because I don't really know whether to say I like it or not. I suppose I like it, but not in the same sense as Warbringer, He Who Fights with Monsters, or even like Forged in Flame or Infernal Devices, minus the last story, which wasn't that great, or Casualties of War. It's just a bit harder to actually say yes, this is a great set, when I've got a bit of a but is it kind of thoughts in my head. But enough rambling. The stories are as follows: A Mother's Love by Noga Flashion. I don't know if this is her first Big Finish audio that she's written, but certainly the first one for the War Doctor. Followed by Berserker by Timothy X Attack, and I believe he wrote Rewind from Battlegrounds, and it does feature the Berserker Dalek, or a Berserker Dalek that was introduced in that story. And finally, Menos by Paul Merline. I probably butchered the name. Starting with A Mother's Love, the War Doctor travels to a space station, a new Time Lord hospital operated by the AI Mom. But he's not the only one. Case and Veclin travel there after Veclin is injured in battle, and they attempt to go there to save Veclin and help her. However, there's a bit of a secret behind Mum, or Mom, I should say. American use of the word, not British. So Mom is kind of breaking down, although she won't admit it. She's kind of broken down a little bit following the death of one of her programmers. So her husband, the other programmer, decides he and their daughter probably could leave now and just hand over Mom's operations to somebody else. Mom does not like the idea of this, being like a person from a family who kind of does not want to let members of their family go, and they've already lost one member, they don't want to lose any others. So when the other technician operator tries to go, they then stop him and freeze him along with several other patients. But said technician has sent a message out to the doctor. Meanwhile, Runa, the daughter of the technicians, has absolutely no idea what Mom is up to, and it just believes that both have gone to Gallifrey, and Mom is looking after her, basically like a mother does with a child, so forth. Although Runa is probably like a teenager at this point, mid to late teenager. Both characters are quite strong-willed and strong-headed, and occasionally clash, but there's definitely a strong bond between them and a strong love between the two of them, which is probably what propels Mom's decision overall. But at the same time, she's also malfunctioning and therefore going a bit crazy. So the Doctor, Case, and Veclin have to try and find a way to stop her, as well as also prevent the Time Lord's destroyers coming to destroy the hospital, since they've had no response from it, and therefore presume it may have fallen into enemy hands, or should I say suckers, since they are fighting the Daleks. Now, of course, the Daleks have nothing to do with any of this in this story, but the Time Lords don't know that, so it's a race against time to stop Mom and the destroyers before the space station is destroyed. And objectively, this is a very good story. It's a very good story of the Doctor and Case reconnecting, Veclin's connection with Case, and Mom and what she's up to and what's going on there, and her connection to Runa. It's all good stuff. I just I don't know, I just didn't quite enjoy it as much. I just didn't quite engage with it. I suppose the first time round I actually quite engaged with it to an extent, but the second time, no, I just didn't quite feel this story. I thought it was good. I can't really put my finger on it, but emotionally, I can't quite say this is a brilliant story, but objectively, looking at it analytically, it is a really great story. It's just that I can't really bring myself to say, yes, this is fantastic. This is absolutely amazing. It's just, yeah, it's good. I suppose it's a good one, I guess. More feeling-wise. This is the first time in this series I felt this, I think, because other times opinions have changed more dramatically, but this time round, I'm struggling to actually wonder if I did enjoy this or not. And I think, objectively speaking, yes, this is a great story. But subjectively, I don't really know. I guess I liked it more, certainly more so on the first listen. I think I like it, but I'm not sure. It's one I can't really definitively say is one I really enjoy. Maybe some of the interactions or maybe some of the character motivations, I don't really know, but one reason or another, I just can't quite engage with it as much as I want to. But on an objective level, it is still really good, and I hope other people manage to get on board more than I did. And the same could be said for the following two stories. I don't really know what it is. The next one, Berserker, is the one that I actually think was better on the second of my two listens for this box set. The first time to just listen to the series, and the second time to re-listen to get my opinions down for the review. But I don't really know if it works this time round. I will say this: Berserker is a really interesting story and very well written. So it's kind of like taking the idea of like what Dalek and the Time of Angels tried to do, where you've got this one lone Dalek who's gone mad and is all over just crazy in this one planet, one place. And so a group of aliens who used to live here are traveling there to try and get their genetic pool DNA stuff from a vault or something along those lines, and they have to avoid and or kill the Dalek. It's a very interesting story, but the Berserker Dalek is one of those Daleks where even if you blow it up, it can easily repair itself and use what's been left behind in the blast. So not just pieces of Dalek, but pieces of humans, weaponry, or whoever's fighting them, weaponry and so forth. It's quite crazy. And unlike the other Daleks, these Daleks don't care about purity. They're a weapon. They're a mindless weapon, mostly. So the characters go in to try and find the vault and stop the Dalek. But of course, the Doctor and Case have a bit of a second agenda for this, and the Doctor has a third agenda. So they're there to also help out Case with whatever's going on with her at the moment, because she's part Dalek, part human, as we learned in Warbringer. But the Doctor also has the agenda of perhaps securing the creature's stuff as a possible weapon, or finding out more about the Berserker Dalek. So there's a lot of different agendas here, but it does stick to focusing on getting to this one target and these people being attacked by the Berserker and the threat of the Berserker at any moment. There's three notable characters: a leader person, a second-in-command technician person, and a scientific officer person. And it's interesting to see the play out between these characters. Although I'm not really a fan of when the lead two soldiers who are presumed dead but then come back and they're like, oh, we know everything about what you guys are up to now, and now we don't trust you and don't like you, which is a relatable response, completely understandable, but for God's sake, focus. I don't know why, I just got a bit cross about that. I get it, guys, you've been tricked, I understand, but oh my God, not now. Not now. Just shut up and just shut up. Sorry, that bit really got to me. Not as bad as was what Temenus did, but yeah, that bit. Luckily, these two do eventually end up sort of working again alongside them again in the end, and the one survivor is kind of like on okay grounds with them, but yeah, oh my gosh, that's the only bit of the story I think is actually bad, but I think most of the story is still pretty damn good. And then, like I said, it's understandable, it's relatable, it makes sense, and it's a natural response to like the group is like, hang on, these guys were helping us and they've had other agendas the whole time, What the hell? It's just the scene where they come back and they're all crybaby about it. Okay, crybaby's not the right word, but you get the point. When they're all shouting about it, it just makes me go. The rest of the episode is really great, though. It's a very good story. I think if I was to pick a favourite, I suppose I should say objectively best. It might be this one. Apart from that, those couple of minutes, I reacted to quite heavily just now. But besides that, it's quite a strong story. Funny enough, in the behind the scenes, they discussed making this story like a one shot story, like the film 1917, directed by Sam Mendes, who directed my favourite film of all time, Skyfall. I haven't seen 1917 though, but from what I've seen of the trailers and clips, it's like a one shot film where there's like it's filmed like there's only one or two take shots, right? It's following the whole story in one or two shots. Sam Mendes directed 2 Bond films, and the other Bond film he directed, Spectre, had its pre-title sequence open on a very similar level. It was very much one shot going on for about half the pre-titles, or a third of the pre-titles, until Bond got to find his target. And apparently 1917, it's pretty much the whole film is one or two of those long takes, which is probably more likely shorter individual takes cut to make it look like one take. However, whilst that may look impressive on visuals, like on film, on television, etc., it doesn't quite work with audio because it just sounds like it's like a regular audio. It's framed as it's all taking place in 1 hour, one continuous hour, in a long shot format, but that only works in the case of in the long shot perspective if you actually see it. And Mr. TARDIS brought this point up in his review of this box set, because it does just sound like another Big Finish audio as opposed to a Big Finish audio doing a long shot, which they probably framed it that way, but the final result is, well, how are we supposed to know unless we listen to the interviews or read it on the wiki? How are we supposed to know from actually listening to this? That, yeah, sure, maybe even if it takes place in 1 hour, how are we supposed to know it's a long shot style audio? That's a difference between film / video and audio, is that you could tell on a visual media that it's all taken like one continuous shot or 2 continuous long shots. With audio, it didn't really make much of a difference. Maybe if anyone's going to make any fan animations out of this episode, they can do it in the style of a long shot, because that will probably show what the crew were trying to go for. But in its current form as audio only, it just feels like a normal audio that just so happens to take place within an hour and we mostly focus on the Doctor and Case's perspectives. But even then, in fact, there's one bit where Case is up against the Berserker Dalek. She goes up against that, and then later we then move on to the Doctor meeting up with the 2 survivors, before one of them sacrifices themselves to open the vault. So actually, there did feel like there was one bit where it was almost like a cut. Okay, before moving on to Memless, it's worth mentioning that, spoiler alert, at the end of Berserker, the Berserker Dalek then had tried to assemble itself around Case. So the Doctor has to try and fix her, and it's unknown whether her loyalties are now going to be towards him, the Time Lords, etc., or she's going to turn to her Dalek side and work for the Daleks who created her. At the end of Berserker, Case is undecided, which is a theme in that episode. So the next episode, Memlos, the Doctor takes her to a secret Time Lord space station run by a upper-class Time Lord who is a pacifist and doesn't really like the idea of the Time War. So her part for the war is to collect data and information about planets and people who were erased from time, which may not be entirely legal, as apparently the Time Lords only want only stuff for military use or to advance their strategic advantage in the war. So this could be considered a bit naughty in their books, but we don't have to worry about them because they're absent from the story. Instead, the Daleks are on the way looking for Case. So the Doctor is trying to help out Case, and Case also seems to be able to find out who she used to be and what her family was in some projections and storylines. But then the Dalek time strategist then hijacks everything to try and persuade Case to join him. Hold on, wasn't the time strategist destroyed in He Who Fights with Monsters for trying to betray the Emperor Dalek? Then again, the events of that story kind of got undone when the Doctor stopped everything and fixed everything. So I guess the Dalek time strategist was undestroyed. He did his death was undone, and the Dalek Emperor forgot about his attempt to betray him and use the barber surgeon's weapons in the war. So I guess that was all forgotten about when that was all undone. And the time strategist is back, baby. Anyway, so the Doctor then has to jump in to try and help Case and trying to persuade her to stay on the Time Lord side, whilst this time strategist tries to get her to go to the Dalek side, and it's causing her a lot of confusion and torment whilst the Daleks invade the space station. I think this one is my least favourite of the box set, just because I think, yeah, it's simply good, whilst A Mother's Love and Berserker are very good, certainly on a objective level. And if I was to go subjective, Mother's Love was my favourite when I first listened to it, then it kind of dipped a little bit afterwards. Berserker, I thought it was good when I first heard it, went up in opinion on the second time, although I still don't like that scene where those two characters come back and say, oh, we know everything now. That thing I kind of ranted about earlier. But other than that, it's very good. So that's now my favourite of the box set. So Mother's Love would now come second. But Memnos is good, but I'm not really getting much out of this. And the twist is pretty decent about the space station holding a Dalek harvester, the Doctor attempting to convince Case to join him, but Case doesn't really know what she wants to do. She certainly doesn't want to join the Daleks, but she doesn't really know if she can trust the Doctor either, which, in fairness, he's been a bit more dodgy this box set than he was in Warbringer, and gives her more of a reason to doubt him than he did back then. Heck, even in the first story, he didn't really give her much of a reason to doubt her, but once Berserker came around, then there was the level of distrust. Not to mention the animosity between box sets, where he kind of just leaves her. I also liked the Time Lords who were operating the space station, although one of them does get killed, and it really is probably the most pointless death in some of these War Doctor ordies, where he's just like, okay, I'm not going to tell them anything, Doctor. You are going to tell them stuff, random person. Daleks want to know stuff. No, I exterminate. Ah, you bloody idiot. He was going to tell you anything. Maybe he did. Maybe he didn't. But we don't care. I don't really like that death, though. I know it's completely in character for the Daleks to kill a guy just like that, but I don't know. It just came too quickly, I think. I think maybe there could have been a bit more of a standoff between the guy, or maybe he could have been a bit more resilient, determined not to tell the Daleks anything, even when the Doctor says, go ahead. No, seriously, tell them. Because I think it would have been a better death if he had been just more resilient, if the Daleks had just waited to find out the information. But no, even the time strategist is like, whatever. So, yeah, I think that's probably the worst death in a War Doctor audio, or one of them at least, because it's too quick. It's too snappy, and as in character for the Daleks as that is, it doesn't work in execution. And it's also a really bad choice on the Daleks' part to literally just go straight for the kill instead of actually trying to get what they want. No, they have to do it the hard way. I don't know. I just don't feel that was the right thing to do. Or at least the right way to handle it. The way the story ends also kind of comes abruptly as well. Like, there's a good kind of couple of scenes where the Doctor and Case are trying to negotiate with each other. He's trying to persuade her to come with him. They're going to get out of there before the whole thing blows up. And then the other Time Lord comes in and rescues the Doctor and gets him out the same way he was planning to get them all out. But they leave Case, and then the Time Strategist picks her up and takes them to the Dalek ship before the station blows up. I wonder if that's going to tie in with Enemy Mine or a possible later War Doctor box set. Heck, if Enemy Mine doesn't have anything to do with this, and there aren't any more War Doctor Begins box sets, then this ending kind of comes flat. So hopefully something will come out of this, even more so than this coming out of Warbringer. Overall, Memnos is actually quite unsatisfactory as a finale. Maybe as the end of this part of Case's story and the beginning of the next part, if they are going to carry on with it at some point, if not in the next box set, then later down the line. Then I think it's been a bit of, I think it was a bit of a weak conclusion to chapter 2, basically, of Case's story. Like, if Warbringer is chapter 1, Comrades-In-Arms is chapter 2, and then Enemy Mine or whatever her next part of her story is chapter 3, and then there's a bit more of she's more of a villain, or she's more working for the Daleks, or there's a more serious confrontation in that one, because I think that's probably where they're going to go with it. Maybe with some of the indecision still knocking about, but she's more on the side of the Daleks for a bit. That's what I think they're going to do with it. But as a transitional episode, and as the finale to this box set, Memnos comes as a disappointment. It's not bad. It's certainly nowhere near as terrible of an ending of a box set as well, I say terrible. I still passed Eye of Harmony at 7 out of 10. Was I okay when I did that? Then again, Legion of the Lost is also a 7. Was I okay when I passed those scores? But yeah, but I certainly don't think this story was as bad as Eye of Harmony. I think that one really soured that box set. That was such a super disappointing story, full stop, let alone a season finale and connection from one box set into the next. And I think this one, whilst good, is a disappointing conclusion to this box set. And if the Case story is going to be continued either next time or a later box set, it's a disappointing chess piece move to that part of the story, chapter 3 of Case's story, so to speak. So yeah, Memnos is a disappointing story. The best stuff is Case's past recreated and reformed, and her trying to work out whether to be a good person, work for the Time Lords, also come to her Dalek side. So, yeah, Memnos was a disappointment. I also have to say, I didn't quite enjoy, I don't want to be too mean, but I didn't quite enjoy Azaz Awad's performance in this box set. Like, I thought she was good in very good in Warbringer, but this box set, she handles her confused side well, but I think the emotional side, I don't know, I think she just shouts a lot, and it's, well, actually, I suppose that's the point. But it just doesn't quite work, and I don't feel as attached to the character this time round as I did in Warbringer. And yeah, I'm not actually as looking forward to seeing where they go with her character now than I was before this box set came out. I presume they are going to do more with her, and I do look forward to seeing hearing how the story ends. But I don't know, I wasn't quite on board with Case this time round, even with more of a emotional depth this time round. But I think that might have knocked the character down a little bit. Wow, that's a first. Character development actually knocks a character down, and for once. Well, we must never speak of this again. Also, the end of A Mother's Love implies that Case or her inbuilt computer thing has been upgraded and is going to be joining her around, but it doesn't play anything in the next two stories. It's sort of like implying that Mom kind of transferred a bit to her of her into Case's system, or tried to help her a bit, and that's what they're trying to find to help her in Berserker. But it doesn't really play anything in either that or Memnos. Time we'll see Case if they do another box set with Case, but it just doesn't go anywhere else in this box set. So, you know, I'll put a pin in it for now. Say, okay, maybe we'll come back to this later, But otherwise, it's a piece of missed opportunity. And what was that scene about? And now onto the scores. So both A Mother's Love and Berserker are pretty good stories. Certainly objectively very good. Subjectively, I've kind of had a bit of a rocky relationship with them, but on the whole, I think they're pretty fun episodes. A few problems with them, a few kind of gripes, and oh my god, so scenes. Even as Mother's Love had a couple where I was kind of questioning it, but it was worse in in one scene in Berserker. But for the most part, A Mother's Love and Berserker are good episodes and are worth listening to. Even though I wasn't really personally, yes, I'm on board with them, I do think they are pretty good episodes, and both I would give an 8 out of 10 score. I'm happy to include both of them in that category. Memnos, on the other hand, I want to give it an 8 out of 10 and make it a full 8 out of 10 scores, and 24 out of 30 for the whole box set. But no, I can't. I'm sorry. Memnos was disappointing. It's a good story, but it's a bit of a disappointing conclusion to this box set. It's the least enjoyable of the three stories. It's kind of just there. It just ends the series. It has some cool ideas, and I liked the reference back to back to Rewind with the planet, I believe. And the best stuff are, of course, Case reliving her history, as well as some of it being corrupted. And maybe it's not quite the same each time she revisits her past. But overall, the story is good, but disappointing. Whilst the other two stories are objectively very good, and subjectively good. But Memnos, subjectively, okay. So I'm going to give Memnos a 7 out of 10. I think it's probably the strongest of the 7 out of 10 War Doctor stories the stories I've scored a 7. It's definitely better than Legion of the Lost, definitely better than Eye of Harmony, and I probably would take it above Temenus, so it's the best of the 4 7 out of 10s War Doctor stories I've scored. I certainly prefer it over those 3. But then every other War Doctor story is above that, so yeah. Ouch. So it's a bit of a disappointing end to the box. It's probably the most disappointing conclusion to a series since Eye of Harmony. So that means overall this box set gets a score of 23 out of 30, which comes to 8 out of 10, but the lower end of 8 out of 10, like the bottom third of the score. That's a shame, really, because there were elements of this box set I enjoyed, parts of the story I liked, but when all is said and all is done, it wasn't quite a satisfactory listen. I couldn't quite entirely engage with it, and the last story was a bit of a disappointing conclusion to the box set. Hopefully the story will continue either with Enemy Mine or a future War Doctor Begins box set. Otherwise it's a damp squid of an ender that's being left open for a story that isn't planned or likely to happen, unless they come back to it later down the line. But yeah, hopefully they'll pick up the story thread again. Otherwise it's just being left, and when they could have easily have cut the last scene for a more conclusive ending. But hopefully that does mean we will get more with Case and this storyline later down the line, and it will make up for a less than satisfactory conclusion to this series and be a improvement over this series in terms of story-wise and where they take the character and what happens in that story or series. Also, for those wondering where I place Comrades-In-Arms, both the box set and the 3 stories, in my War Doctor Audios ranking that I did back in March. Here we go. This is the updated ranking, minus the bottom 2 spots, but in all fairness, the top 17 have not changed, because Comrades-In-Arms 3 stories have now taken the 18th, 20th, and 24th spots. Yes, the stories are that good, or that not so good. Berserker is, I think I like it more than Rewind, but it is not as good as Light the Flame. a couple of fellow War Doctor Begins stories from other odd-numbered box sets. Because the 6 stories in the even-numbered Begins box sets are top 9 material, top 4 for the case of the 4th box set, and then one place below Rewind is where A Mother's Love goes. And then it is The Innocent at 21st. Lastly, as I mentioned, Memnos is my favourite of the 4 7 out of 10 scored episodes that I have given to War Doctor Audios, but that means that it has to go at number 24 out of 27, as we are now up to 27 individual episodes across the 9 box sets. So the list is now 27 Legion of the Lost from Infernal Devices, 26 Eye of Harmony from Agents of Chaos, 25 Temenus from Battlegrounds, 24 Memnos from Comrades-In-Arms, 23 The Thousand Worlds from Only the Monstrous, 22 A Thing of Guile from Infernal Devices, 21 The Innocent from Only the Monstrous, 20 A Mother's Love from Comrades-In-Arms, 19 Rewind from Battlegrounds, 18 Berserker from Comrades-In-Arms, and then the top 17 is exactly the same. 17 being Light the Flame from Forged in Fire, 16 The Heart of the Battle from Only the Monstrous, 15 The Neverwhen from the Infernal Devices, 14 The Enigma Dimension from Casualties of War, 13 The Shadow Vortex from Agents of Chaos, 12 Lionhearts from Forged in Fire, 11 The Lady of Obsidian from Casualties of War, 10 The Keeper of Light from Battlegrounds, 9, 8 and 7 being Consequences, Destroyer and Saviour respectively, all from Warbringer, 6 Pretty Lies from Casualties of War, and then the top 5, The Eternity Cage, the best John Hurt starring audio from Agents of Chaos, 4, 3 and 2, The Mission, The Abyss and The Horror, all from He Who Fights with Monsters, and 1, The Shadow Squad from Forged in Fire. And as for the box sets, (23 out of 30 for the total score of the box set, making this the weakest box set of the 9 pneumatically. Like, if I was just going by the numbers, this would be the weakest box set. No, this is the weakest box set of the 9, although it still gets an 8 out of 10, just like the next 3 up. But the episode scores total at 23 out of 30, and therefore comes 9th and last place above Infernal Devices, which is at 8, with a total of 24 out of 30, and Battlegrounds at 7, also with 24 out of 30, with Only the Monstrous being the last of the overall 8 out of 10 box sets with 25 out of 30 at 6th place. Agents of Chaos comes 5th with 9 out of 10, with an overall score of 26 out of 30. Forged in Fire, also a 9 out of 10, comes 4th with 27 out of 30, as does Warbringer at 3rd, and Casualties of War is 1 place higher at 2nd with 28 out of 30, but He Who Fights with Monsters gets the full 10 out of 10, 30 out of 30 score, and is immediately placed at number 1. So for me, it's a bit strange that we went from the strongest War Doctor box set to the weakest immediately afterwards, if we're just counting the numbers. If we're just doing numerical, then yeah. But again, this is all my personal opinion. And in fairness, I would say on a feelings note, I would have probably put it above the next 3 up, Infernal Devices, Battleground, and Only the Monstrous. But going by the numbers, it is actually at the bottom of the list. By the way, sorry for any noise you might have heard coming from above the room. My dad's doing some stuff up in the attic. Yeah, I'm not so happy with this one. I thought it was good, but I don't know. I felt like this was disappointing for me. I don't know about any of you guys. What do you think? Did you really enjoy this box set? Like, I've been saying I like this, I like that, but I'm also not quite as on board with it and kind of felt a bit disappointed. I suppose if I listen to it a 3rd time, I might be swayed more in the positive direction, at least for the first 2 stories. But the 3rd one, I'm not really so sure. Apart from the cases past stuff scenes, those were very good. More of that in the episode, please. Also, one other complaint, and this isn't so much to do with the stories, but actually to do with the artwork, the box set artwork. Now, these box set artworks are amazing, but I have one big gripe with this one. This Dalek here, now, I don't know if it's been on more box sets or other CD covers, but for me, this is the 3rd time this particular picture of a Dalek has been used and then just changed up a little bit to look like it's not the same Dalek as that because it's taken from one of the Dalek stills from Bad Wolf Parting the Ways, and they just added some other attachments to it to make it look like the Berserker Dalek or a new type of Dalek. But it's the third box set that they've used this Dalek, the specific Dalek picture, on the front cover. And it's the second War Doctor Begins box set in a row, because they've done it here for one of the Spider Daleks. They've done it exactly the same picture. It's this Dalek just on a big bloody spider thing. And if that wasn't bad enough, this is the first time they used it. They used it on Doctor of War Genesis. Yeah. Doctor of War Genesis. And it's just blue and white and a bit of gold. It's the same Dalek from that Bad Wolf Parting the Ways still that they're using on the cover. It's being frequently reused, just changed up a little bit to modify the Dalek, but it's the same picture. Big Finish, please, can you use another Dalek picture for the next box set? Please? I'm just glad it's just been those 3 box sets, and not all of the Time War box sets have used the same Dalek picture. But please, Big Finish, just don't keep using the same picture over and over again, because it's getting a bit silly. I gave it a pass with He Who Fights with Monsters, because the Doctor of War Genesis one was just a normal Dalek with a different paint job, and the one for He Who Fights with Monsters was a normal one, but on the top of a spider thing. But with this one, yeah, just putting on the attachment doesn't change anything. Like, well, obviously it does, but it's the same picture, and it's noticeably the same picture as the last 2 times. So yeah, I gave it the pass last time because one of them was a spider Dalek. This time, despite the extra attachments, it's clearly the same picture. So please, Big Finish cover designers for Enemy Camp, please use other Dalek pictures. The one for Cass was awesome. Anyway, that's it from me. Thank you for watching. Sorry if this review went on much longer than usual. Usually these War Doctor reviews are like, well, the first few were like a quarter of an hour to 20 minutes, and then about 20, they got to 20 to 35. And now this one, at the recording stage, is almost 50, and it's probably going to end up being like 45 or 50, even with editing. So, yeah, sorry about that, guys. But, yeah, this one was quite a tricky one to actually get my thoughts down, really. So, anyway, thank you so much for watching this video, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.